to yet another thought-provoking session on the controversies of Mahabharata. So I'm your host Rishabh, and I'll be taking you through this session. So just stay tuned, and I especially welcome Dr. Karthik Subramaniam sir for giving his valuable time. So, so we have three topics to see today. So one topic is Eklavya, and we'll also be going through the reservations and inheritance in monarchy. And if we get time, we'll also touch upon wars, why wars are important, and why they were there in the previous times. So these are our topics of discussion for today. If throughout the session, if you have any questions, you can always put down in the chat box, and at the end, if we get some time, we'll also allow you to ask questions directly to sir. Okay, and also I have noted down your questions which were unanswered in the previous sessions, so I'll be taking them today. So yes sir, Eklavya. So my first question would be that why was such a discrimination done by Drona on Eklavya, just because he was coming from a low caste?
Yeah, so in fact, this particular story of Ekalavya is understood by common people this particular manner, that it was a injustice done, and that also to a tribal person, because Ekalavya belonged to a tribe. It was not just a lower caste, but he belonged to a tribal group of people, right? So last time, if you remember, we discussed in detail about Karna, and the discussion was centered around the fact that Karna was actually not discriminated against so much as it is made out to be in television serials or sometimes in books and all that in popular media. On the other hand, I was saying that, so we discussed about Karna in detail. Now coming to Ekalavya, it's even more contentious, because in some ways the jati that he belonged to was even quote unquote lower than what Karna belonged to, right? Because he was from a tribal background. Yeah. Okay, so now if you look at the Mahabharata, what you understand only in the story is that when Ekalavya comes to Drona, Drona says, I cannot teach you. He doesn't say that I'm not going to teach you because of your caste or whatever. He just says, I cannot teach you, please leave this place. Okay. So people have made that interpretation that he was rejected because of his caste only, though there is no such text that says that he was sent home because of his caste. So then what is the reason? Okay, so there is another very important reason which people fail to see in the politics of Mahabharata. Okay, so for that, you need to understand that there were two kingdoms in India at that time. One was ruled by Hastinapur, and the other was in Magadha. Magadha is in modern day Bihar. So these two kingdoms were the most powerful kingdoms at that time, and both of them were always at odds with each other. Magadha was ruled by Jarasandha, okay, and Hastinapur was ruled by Dhritarashtra and all these people, the Kauravas, Pandavas. So there was always a cold war between Magadha and Hastinapur, which is very clear in the Mahabharata. Even during the Rajasuya Yagya, that is why Magadha had to be conquered, and finally Jarasandha was killed. But my point here is that now this, again, people who don't read the Mahabharata carefully or don't look at the politics, they fail to understand that Ekalavya belonged to a tribe that owed its allegiance to Jarasandha. Okay, so please try to understand. Ekalavya's father was a tribal chieftain of Jarasandha's army. Okay, so I just was, and in Hastinapur, Drona was running a Gurukul, which was to train Kshatriyas of Hastinapur. Okay, so just to give you a simple example, like we have National Defense Academy in Pune, which is there to train and empower those who can join Indian Army. Now imagine there is a tribe in some Peshawar, and that tribe, which is maybe some Taliban tribe or something, which owes its allegiance to the Pakistani government, their son, a 16-year-old boy, very sincere boy, very sincere student he is, very nice boy. Okay, he comes and says that, I also want to learn in India. Will our government allow? or rather will any
Never.
government in the world allow. So
Never.
this politics has to be understood in order to get this point. Otherwise, in the Mahabharata, this caste thing is actually not mentioned only that because he's from a tribal background, he has been rejected and all. All this is basic general, when you show that injustice has happened to somebody, then there is a lot of outpour of sorrow, of compassion, and feeling of oneness, and so on. Okay, so something like that has happened here, but Ekalav and then what happens? The rest part of the story is also interesting. See, Ekalavya was rejected by Drona. He told him that I can't teach you. He didn't give any reason. He was a young boy. He didn't want to tell him all the politics. He just said that sorry, I can't teach you. So, as a ideal student or whatever, he should have just left the place and gone. But what Ekalavya does, he clears a row of trees from where Drona is teaching all these people, and he watches what he teaches, and he makes a murti of Drona here, and he also watches what he's teaching secretly in the forest, and then he imitates that and he starts practicing. And that is the time you see the story that later Drona comes and says, "Hey, who taught you all this?" So he says, "I've learned from you only." So then he says that you have to give me your thumb as the Guru Dakshina. Because see, that was violation. It's like you're not allowed entry in a college, and then you find some way to still learn from that college. No, you cannot do that, right? If you're not allowed in COP, you didn't get admission in COP, it doesn't mean that you sit near the window and you find out. Yeah. And also Ekalavya, that skill that he did of shooting arrows and stuffing it in the mouth of a dog, this is
Dog.
considered by and large a misuse of your skill. See, basically, you cannot see Drona also would have such competitions, but they would keep a false bird or something like that. Not that you
Hmm.
catch a real dog and stuff its mouth in such a way it cannot even open its mouth. So he understood that this person who is having this knowledge is potentially going to, we don't know where he's going to use. It's like you give knowledge to a Taliban fellows, 16-year-old boy from that tribe. You don't know what he's going to do with that. He can do anything with it. Right. And Ekalavya later also his history isn't good. By the way, if you know something, Ekalavya is killed by Krishna in the end. And
Yes.
Krishna doesn't kill anybody just like that. Okay, Krishna kills people like Kamsa. Krishna kills people. It's not about caste, mind you. Krishna killed many people of higher caste also. He killed, so many Kshatriyas. So many people he has killed. It is not about caste over here.
Hmm.
The point
Okay.
is, Ekalavya was inclined to do such things only.
Okay.
Which misuse of technology at that time. Okay, and that is why Drona. That's another reason why Drona was upset with him, and also Krishna later, of course, when he grows up, he does many other things. That's a different part only, totally, and he's ultimately
Okay.
killed by Krishna.
So do you mean to say Krishna kills anyone
Mm.
who is having a demoniac mentality, for that matter, even his own son
Yes,
he killed?
yeah. So basically, if you see that in the Mahabharata, Krishna doesn't discriminate between his what shall I say? There is nothing for Krishna like he's our man and all that. Like in the Mahabharata, there is the story in the Mahabharata war, Bhima and Gatotkacha is killed by Karna. And at that time, Krishna starts jumping and dancing. So Bhima is asking, Arey, ye to hamara aadmi hai. He's our man. Why are you happy? He said, no, he's not our man. He may be your son. But he is extremely arrogant and he has caused a lot of trouble in the world. I was thinking that I will have to kill Gatotkacha. Thank God Karna
Okay.
killed him. So by that way, Gatotkacha is also dead. And that weapon that Karna got from Indra, that is also no used.
Okay.
And Krishna even along with Satyabhama, he travels and he kills his own son also. So the whole point I'm saying is Krishna doesn't kill anybody just like that unless someone is really against the principles of dharma. Mind you, it's not about faith. Krishna is not there to kill people who don't believe in him. This is not like an Abrahamic war where they say kill the faithless. Here it's not about faithless. Dharma is different from faith. Dharma means
Sir,
you
I
are
would like to
against.
just
Yeah,
stop you
yeah.
because this is something which I'll be going in the end. This
Okay, okay,
separate
yeah,
I
sure,
will
sure.
be just
Yeah, sorry.
taking in
Yeah.
the end. So, but yeah, got it. Also, on this matter of this thing, when he was hitting the dog, so he was like how I perceive is that he was so much confident that he was just showcasing his power, that even if I am doing this activity, I am so controlled in my activity. I felt it that way, and that is how we see this action to be.
Yeah, I understand that. So there are so many ways in which to show control. So, for example, Arjuna shoots at the eye of the fish. That was a toy fish that was kept on top, right? Which he shoots. The
Oh,
eye of the fish that is rotating on the chakra. So it is not necessary to do that. Anyway, that was a very okay. Even if you say that, that was a minor incident, but the point is that indicated his nature of misuse of power, which was extended later in life. That's the point that
okay,
I'm coming to.
okay,
Okay, that
yeah,
certainly belonged to
understood.
his background. Like I told you, he's like the today's
Yeah,
equivalent of Taliban guy's son. Like that.
yeah. That actually makes this example was very beautifully which analogy which you gave, because otherwise if I'll think, and even in the movies which we see, like some movies, that even if I want to take any other knowledge, and if I sit in another class that's considered to be good only, but just because you told that he was not he was from, it's equivalent to just some boy from an ISI, and trying to learn education from India, that example makes sense more. Okay,
Yeah.
so also wasn't it like too much for Drona to ask for his thumb? Wasn't it too much of a Guru Dakshina?
Yeah. See, basically the thing is, you may call it may look a little cruel, but the point is two things. One is stealing knowledge without permission, and second
Hmm.
thing is he noticed the potential misuse of knowledge, which actually expanded
Okay.
a lot later, mind you. See, that's the whole point. That's the reason why his end is also as death at the hands of Krishna. So both things were there. See, it's like
Okay.
even for that matter, if you see when Duryodhan was born, and in his childhood only, when Duryodhan was showing symptoms of being very arrogant and very problematic, Vidura told him that you should discard this son. If necessary, you kill him also. It seems very cruel. How can you kill a child like that? But it was very clear who this Duryodhan is going to be in terms of his behavioral patterns from childhood only, which was there. Okay, so like that.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah.
And also one thing about teaching from Drona's end, if I see that there was one person called as Drishtadyumna who was born to kill Drona. So if Drona could teach Drishtadyumna, why not Eklavya? In that context, I'm asking.
You see, that in fact proves the other point that Drona had no hesitation to give knowledge on personal accounts. Okay. See, first of all, you have to understand, as far as Drupad is concerned, Drupad was a friend of Drona. In the middle, they had enmity, but later he conquers his kingdom, and they again become friends, at least externally. Okay. And that boy, Drupada's son, was not any enemy of Hastinapur, by the way. And as a character also, Drishtadyumna was top class. He was not a, it's not just about caste, mind you. It's not because he was Kshatriya caste, he was top. No. Our scriptures are not going into the caste. Duryodhana was also a Kshatriya, but he's condemned. Ashwatthama is a Brahmana, son of Drona, but he's condemned. Do you know one thing? That there are many things Drona refused to teach his son Ashwatthama. Like, for example,
Yes.
the Brahmastra.
Brahmastra.
Yeah, that fellow learned half, but he actually told him that you are not competent only to learn this. He was his own son and he was Brahmin. It is not about the jati, it is about your qualification also, right? Who are you? I mean, what can you handle? And Drona is very upset even with his own son on many accounts, and Karna
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
for some reason. So there's nothing about caste. It is about so now as far as Drishtadyumna is concerned, yes, he was destined to kill Drona, but then that was not seen as a problem by Drona. Drona felt that okay, anyway, I'm going to die by somebody. Maybe he's going to kill him, but he's a gentleman. I have to teach him. There is no background. His king is now friendly with Hastinapur. There is no reason to reject.
If that is the case, we could see from the childhood of Duryodhan that he was not he was very wicked even from his childhood, then why our Kauravas and especially Duryodhan, I mean, taught, if that is so,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
qualification
yeah.
is to be
See, yeah, this is the whole problem was Dhritarashtra. This Dhritarashtra was not only blind by birth, he was also blinded by attachment to his son. And because of blind attachment to his son, though repeatedly told by Vidura, Bhishma, all the ministers, that this fellow is a snake, your son is a snake, unfortunately. He has to be punished, he has to be driven out, he cannot be given a position. Everything is told to him, but he is attached. So we see that also, right, in today's world also. Sometimes there are politicians whose offspring are so utterly unqualified, but they don't want to remove them from the post of the party leadership or whatever.
mm,
So they continue.
makes-
So this kind of a thing is the problem. So this was the problem. So that was very clear. Right from childhood, Vidur and Bhishma are telling Dhritarashtra.
okay. So had not Duryodhan been the son of Dhritarashtra, he could have been rejected by
No,
Dronacharya.
no, no. Oh, of course, 100%, no question. Vidura was always in
Okay.
favor of rejecting him, but that person was the
Oh,
king. So the problem is, see, now again we have to come to this point: monarchy. If you see this monarchy, I think
mm,
that's our second theme, right? If you see
yeah,
monarchy,
yeah.
yes, monarchy
Just
certainly
mm,
means, yeah, it goes from
yeah, just
father to son, but the son has to be competent. It can't be like Duryodhan.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So before monarchy, can I take reservation?
Okay, we can briefly touch on that.
Yeah, maybe. What are your comments on reservation? Sure. Like, was it
Yeah,
allowed
see,
previously,
basically,
or
yeah. There was always some type of reservations, not that it was not there. See, what happens is, especially in political establishments, representation of all jatis was very important. So if you read the Mahabharata, 25% of the Mahabharata is Anushasan Parva. Anushasan Parva means the discussion of Bhishma with Yudhishthir about governance. And in that, they are discussing all kinds of topics about governance. But one important thing they are discussing, one example which I want to give, which they discuss, is about cabinet formation. How should an ideal
okay,
cabinet be of a king? And Bhishma tells Yudhishthir there should be 21 members in the cabinet. Out of 21, 3 are Brahmins, okay, 4 are Kshatriyas, 11 are Vaishyas, okay, and another 3, 4 are Shudras, and 1 is a Suta. So basically, there is this whole distribution among 5 jatis given for the cabinet. And you will surprisingly see that 45% of the cabinet is Vaishya, not Brahmin or Kshatriya. Somebody may say, why? So Bhishma's basic argument is Vaishya means someone who knows how to increase economic prosperity. And cabinet means such people should be there who know to increase the prosperity of the country. If the country doesn't become prosperous, people are not going to be wealthy. People are not going to be comfortable. Simply, you cannot dole out cash and make people comfortable. You need
yeah,
governance where there is business. See, you see that. So 50% is given to them. Brahmins are only 3 out of 22 or 23, whatever the number was. Kshatriyas are 4 or 5, Shudras are 4, and Suta is 1. So the point is this representation is given, especially in political establishments, as per Bhishma, because he says that all these segregations of population must be well represented. Okay, well
represented.
represented. Yeah, so that
Okay,
part is
understood.
fine. The problem in today's India, I mean, I don't want to go too much into it, but just to make a point, it is fine as such. The representation, like in our constitution, also we have, certain reserved seats, etc., which is fine actually. It should be there. That is agreed. That Mahabharata also talks about it. But the problem comes where you have made certain resources so scarce. Like, for example, if you see all these medical seats in colleges,
Yeah.
all governments have kept 1 seat, 2 seat in PG courses. And there also you have put a reservation. And there was this whole thing that even the topper student doesn't get admission or something. I mean, so then
Okay.
that becomes, so it's like, you have, yeah, so then that infrastructure should be increased. Then, if people, so many
Hmm.
people want to be doctors, like we are seeing now also. I mean, this is a separate topic, I don't want to go into it, but so many of our people went to Ukraine to study medicine, all that. So, these problems should be addressed properly. That's the only point. But otherwise,
Okay.
as such, this whole idea of jati-wise, representation, there is no objection to that. I mean, that is fine. At least
Okay.
in political
And
district there.
and out of these 21, one you named a Sutta. So the father of Karna was a member of cabinet, you mean?
Sudan. I don't know whether he was a member of the cabinet. That is not very clear. But that jati had one representation. That means the
Okay.
jati which he belonged to had one position out of that 21.
I understood. Okay.
He may or may not have been. I don't recall that. I think he was a driver of somebody or whatever. That's what I understand. But that is fine.
Yeah.
So, but that jati had one representation, one position.
Okay. So like next we'll go to monarchy. So the inheritance in monarchy. So was the first son the one who would take the share of the, I mean, the land or the whole area, or was it the
Yeah,
qualification which was seen? I mean, was there a role of qualification of a person, or the first
yeah,
person who is this that he is going to take
yeah,
care
yeah,
of
yeah.
everything?
Good question. So Bhishma talks about it in Anushasan Parva again. And two things he talks about. One is as a private individual. Okay, so that means if somebody is a private individual, like a wealthy man, he has many children. How should inheritance be done? He talks about that. You'll be very surprised. He says that in such cases, as a private individual, he has 5 children. He says his property is distributed among all 5 equally. Even the girls, mind you, he makes it very clear.
Yeah.
Even the girls get that. Okay. In fact, Bhishma says that if suppose somebody has girls and he adopted a boy later in life, he says that the biological girl, especially if she's eldest, she gets, her rights should be preserved. There is a lot of talk about inheritance to the girl. And that is how this whole dowry concept comes. The whole idea of dowry is at the time of marriage, because those times people would get married and go away to a far place. Their share of property was given away as dowry. You understood, right? The whole idea of dowry is what? It is nothing but inheritance. Today we feel dowry is something very bad. But actually, dowry in the Mahabharata and the Shastra is nothing but a system of inheritance. You have 5 children. Those days, girls would get married and go to some other town, village. Maybe for a very long time, they wouldn't come back or whatever. So at that point of time, whatever is the property, okay, a man has this
Okay.
much, these 100 cows, he has so much gold, he has 5 children. One girl is getting married. 1/5 of all that goes with the girl. And that money cannot be touched by the girl's husband or parents. Bhishma says there is a special hell waiting for them for that. That money is completely with the girl, and the girl's children, they inherit it. So this is about inheritance of individuals, which is very scientific, which is very modern, if you see. Okay, because only in recent times in all parts of the world, they have started giving inheritance to the girls. But in our
Hmm.
Mahabharata, 5,000 years back, they're talking about inheritance to girls, mind you. This is not more, this is not that what I am saying something new. Mahabharata 5,000 साल पहले लिखा गया था ये point. Okay, first
Gender
thing.
equality.
Now, yeah,
Yeah.
now you come to kingdom. Okay, now you come to kingdom. Now this is a different ball game altogether. According to Bhishma and all the our Itihasas, Mahabharata, etc., the kingdom is not personal property of a king. Okay, so let's be very clear. So the kingdom doesn't get divided among children. So it's not that. So you understood, right? So if a king has 4 children,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean he'll break the kingdom into 4 parts and give one, because it is not his personal property only in the first place, right? So then what would happen is the eldest one would get it. He would be the king. He would not get it. The property is never anybody's. The king is only a
Yeah.
custodian in the Vedic system. See, please try to understand one thing. The monarchy of the West is very different from the king of Indian system. We have to understand this difference. Unfortunately, nobody's even studied it. You have to really study the monarchy systems of the West, how it was. How this Louis the 14th, Louis the 15th, this Prince Charles and Henry and all these people, how they ruled in European countries, what was their thought process behind ruling, and what was the thought process of Indian kings. In the Indian kings, the king didn't own anything. He was a custodian, literally. Okay, that is why even if you see medieval kings in India, like Shivaji Maharaj or some great kings, they never made any big palace for themselves because they were not here for Aishwara. Okay, the king role is seen as it is a servant role actually. Means you're really a servant of the people and you have to serve in that consciousness. Okay, so now coming to that. So the eldest one was made the king. But there are so many examples where if the eldest one was not qualified, he was not made the king, or he was even killed, assassinated by the Brahmins and others. So that also exists.
Okay.
Okay,
Can you
so I'll
give
just give a couple of examples. So
examples?
yeah,
Yeah.
so in the
Yeah. Before
Mahabharata
before
itself, so
before
when we
that,
say,
sir,
yeah,
before that, just thinking. So was this the reason that the land wouldn't be divided or the kingdom wouldn't be divided? There was always the need of a boy to be born. The kings, I mean, they we always see that the kings would see that I till the time they don't have a boy, there was so much of confusion in their mind and they were doing so many yagyas or this or that.
yeah. So
And why
they,
not
of course,
girls
they,
be the, I mean, the rulers of the kingdom?
okay. Okay, so this is a whole different topic about women and how what their role is in terms of ruling, administration, and so on. Now if you see carefully, see, wanting a boy doesn't mean that I don't want a girl. See, the whole problem is, I'll tell you
Yes.
why this problem is too much in today's times. In today's times, what happens? People have only one child. Most people are increasingly having only one child. Some are going for two. That's it. So in that, the probability of this boy, girl, and all is like too much, right? I mean, you just have one
Okay.
child, and then that's a girl, and then you say I want a boy. It's like it's a crazy thing, right? So first of all, these kings and all that, or even wealthy people in general, they didn't have an issue. It's like you have many children, you have half a dozen children. By any law of
Mhm.
probability, it just happens in any case, right?
Oh,
And by the
yeah.
way, there are ample cases of kings also who did not have their own children, but still there are ways in which the kingdom is given to someone else. Okay, but now
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
coming to another
Understood.
important example. Now, if you look at the Mahabharata only, we need to understand our country is named as Bharata, right? Why it is named as Bharata? It is named as
On King
Bharata
Bharat.
because there was this great king Bharata. This Bharata was the ancestor of the Pandavas and Kauravas. Okay, this Bharata is the son of Shakuntala and Dushyanta. Now the interesting thing is this Bharata in the Mahabharata had 9 boys. How many boys? 9 boys.
Nine boys.
But he adopted a 10th boy and made him a king because he felt none of
Oh.
these are like me in quality. Okay, so the kingdom did not pass on to his children like that. And this is the person on whose name our country is named today. We are called as Bharata because of King Bharata of Mahabharata, whether you believe it or no. Somebody may say, I don't believe in Mahabharata. Okay, you don't believe, but at least you believe now our country is called Bharat. And Bharat is called Bharata Vamsha. And this Mahabharat is also called as Mahabharat because of Bharata only. And this Bharata, despite having 9 boys, made the 10th fellow the king. Okay, so there are examples like these. Even if you go ahead, there are examples even of kings who were assassinated. Like there was one great king Vena, son of a king, another king called as Anga. He was a very cruel and wicked man. The Brahmins actually assassinated, they killed him by their mantra
Oh.
Shakti and made another person the king. So basically, this is very clear. Qualification was very important. But see, why should we assume that a child will not be qualified? See, generally, these people were qualified. They ensured that they were qualified. But if somebody was not qualified, there were other ways in which could be done. Somebody could be adopted, something else could have happened. All that is there.
Okay, so I have a question here that isn't it too much of judgmental that just because my child is not qualified at this moment, he can grow up to have that qualification later? I may not be qualified at this moment, but I may get that qualification.
Please try to understand we go by what is today. So it's not that, see, you're sitting for a job interview. Okay, so what you are now, that's what decides whether you get the job or no. That's one thing. Second thing is, okay, chances are given to everyone. Now if you consider Duryodhan also, they saw several chances for him, but he kept doing the same things again and again. And this is, so many times people who are like that, they, so for example, we have even today in India also certain politicians who keep losing always, but just because they have inherited a certain political power in their parties, they keep continuing, right? Which doesn't make any sense. Okay, so how many times are you going to give the chance to the same person when repeatedly he proves his incompetence? So that's the point,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially, see,
Okay.
so the whole point is if you're a private individual, then it is fine. So private individual inheritance is different from kingdom inheritance. Private
Yeah, you
individual
told me.
can, okay, I have 4 children, I give my property to each of them, and one of them spoils the money. Okay, it happens, right? There are many people who kind of throw away all their wealth in gambling and all that. What can be done? That's a different thing altogether. But when it comes to kingdom, the responsibility is too much. See, the
Is more.
repercussion, the fallout is more. Imagine you make an
Yeah.
incompetent person the king, even for 1 year, there is a big loss. But if a private individual has given 1 crore to his son and that fellow loses that money, nobody else is affected. It's only that family which is affected. So we can't, there is no scope here for this thing, for going on the
Okay.
wrong track.
And yeah. So then how was the division in the kingdom done in previous times?
No, the kingdom was never divided. See, that is one reason why, when the Pandavas and Kauravas were at odds with each other and Bhishma suggested to break the kingdom into two,
Yeah.
make Yudhishthir as a king of Indraprastha and let Duryodhan control Hastinapur. This is not
Correct.
appreciated actually. Even by Bhishma himself, he understands that what he suggested was out of context. Because the kingdom was not the father's property to divide like that in two people. The country
Mm.
cannot be broken just like that. See, countries need to have natural borders. Like India and China has a natural border, Himalaya. India
Mountain.
and
Yeah.
Pakistan does not have a boundary. Why? Because it's a man-made boundary. It is not a natural boundary. It's a boundary made because of all this religious violence and all that. So it has nothing to do with natural geography. Naturally, this area extends till Afghanistan. And then again, you have big, big mountains over there which separates. And then there is another totally different, type of people who reside on the other side.
Okay. Understood. Understood. And what was the role of was there any role of dynasty in previous time?
Dynasty is there. Dynasty was there always because see, we cannot, when we talk about a qualification, we cannot assume that dynasty will not produce qualified people. Because just like we spoke about Jati system last time, same thing with dynasties in political circles also. They tend to inherit that brain, right? Just like we say Marwadis. If you see
Hmm.
Marwadi people, anybody born in that Marwadi family, he has that business brain. No, DNA में business है, खून में business है बोलते हैं ना हम लोग, right? So similarly, so like that, so every jati, that because this is all nature of your mind, right? So even political power to be a king, it is about political power, it is about your mind, whether you have that ability to govern. And if somebody
Hmm.
has that ability, it is generally transmitted by DNA to their children, and their children also turn out to be very politically astute. But so all that is accepted, but the point is, if the fellow is not qualified, he cannot become. There, the
Hmm.
buck stops there. We are very clear on that. It's not
Yeah.
that qualification is not, no qualification, there's no compromise on that. There's no compromise on
Makes complete
qualification.
sense. Makes complete sense. Okay, so now coming back to wars, like what was the basis of it? So was Shraddha or faith the basis, or dharma was the basis of the wars in
Yeah.
previous time?
So
Because now we see that generally the wars are based on faith, generally nowadays.
yeah. See, especially if you see now, after the Abrahamic religions came up in the West, the Christianity, Islam, they have expanded by the weapon of their faith. That means their faith gave them the confidence that you can go to other places, destroy that civilization in the name of converting those people. Okay, so
Yeah.
Christianity was first actually. They were very brutal, let me tell you. Today we may not see that so much, but extremely brutal. If you see the whole South America, if you see what these people did to America and Africa, the European colonization, it was all in the name of Christianity. They never felt, the Spanish and the Portuguese, when they killed so many people, Incas and total civilizations only they uprooted. They never felt an iota of guilt in their heart because they felt that all these people are not believing in Jesus Christ. So they're all anyway going to hell. So there is no problem in killing them. The whole idea was that their faith gave them that confidence that the people who don't accept God the way we define it, and the people don't accept the prophet the way we understand. See, because for these people it's not only God, it's about understanding God only through Jesus. Then all these people are anyway destined for hell. See, this is their theology, mind you. This is their theology. This theology is very violent theology. And from the violent theology came the violence, where they went anywhere and everywhere and they just killed people mercilessly. And Islam also followed the same thing after the 7th century, where they would go anywhere. They would not mind only killing people because they felt, yes, a kafir hai. That's their definition. Kafir means one who doesn't believe in our God, in our prophet. He can be killed and there is nothing wrong in it. I mean, that's how their theology is defined. It is not that only the terrorists are saying that. Their fundamental theology is defined like that. So all war was based on Shraddha or faith. Now, coming to the Indian system, if you look at the Mahabharata and our scriptures, no war is fought on Shraddha. That means it is not that some group of people are Vaishnavas, another group of people are Shaivites, or some people are worshipping Ganpati, so they are having a war. You know that God is achieved through this way. Because fundamentally in Sanatana Dharma, this concept only is not there that God can be reached only by one way. Ye hai hi nahi. Even if you see Bhagavad Gita yoga system, karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, bhakti yoga, there are paths, right? Slightly different though. In all, you achieve some kind of transcendence. And gurus are multiple here. We don't have this concept only that you can achieve God only through one prophet. No. Tukaram Maharaj is a prophet, or so many. Ramanuja, Madhva. So basically, there is nothing like this is the only guru through whom you can reach God. It is like somebody saying that Einstein is the only person through whom you can understand physics. Okay, Einstein was a good physics professor, but so many others are also there. Physics, Newton is there, Rutherford is there, this guy is there. So many are there. So these religions are defined like that. So they use that to fight, and they never felt anything. But in the Indian system, no war was based on Shraddha. That means, see, that's why if you see the Mahabharata war, it is not that on the Pandava side everybody was devotee of Krishna, and on the Kaurava side everybody
Mm.
was non-devotee of Krishna. Not like that. In the Kaurava side there was Bhishma, there was Drona, there was Bhurishravas. All were devotees of Krishna and Vishnu. And in Pandava side there was Ghatotkacha, there was so many other people who were not devotees only of Krishna. The war was not between people who had faith in one god or one person and another people. No, not like that. It was a war on dharma. No, dharma is not shraddha. Dharma means what is intrinsically right, what is the right thing to do. Okay, so the Pandavas and others, they represent dharma, because the Kauravas, they were against the principles of this morality and ethics, and how you live. So dharma, which is there, that was the fundamental basis uh, for wars to happen, and not shraddha. So that's the point.
So, but it looks so much that whoever was on the side of Krishna, like he was a devotee. So it looks like a war between devotees and non-devotees.
No, not at all that. Not at all that. Where I already gave you examples. I gave you examples of
Yeah.
great devotees on the other side, and I also gave examples of not devotees on this side. Even on this side, there were people like Shikandi who had their own agenda why they were fighting for the Pandavas. They were not
Yeah.
devotee or something like that. So it had nothing to do with that devotion. It had to do with that the universal ethic, the universal law. And Krishna stood with the Pandavas also not because they were devotees, mind you. It was because they stood for that universal ethic, the right thing. Dharmaraj, Yudhishthir is Dharmaraj, means, please try to understand this. It's not about, see, Krishna protects his devotees a slightly different way. He will take them back to his abode. That's a different thing. But in the world, when he's operating, Krishna is operating based on the principle of dharma.
Okay. Okay. That was quite interesting. So Krishna is also called as Bhakta Vatsal, but you said that so just because the Pandavas were following dharma, he was supporting them.
Yeah, and
Otherwise, if
they were also devotees. That part is not refuted. They were devotees of Krishna, but the prime thing was that they were on the side of dharma. That's the reason why Krishna was here. Dharma
so,
is the fundamental thing. Now,
yeah,
Bhishma was not less devotee. Was
yes,
Bhishma
that's
any
my
less
next question.
devotee?
Yeah,
Bhurishrava
yeah.
was a pure devotee of Vishnu. Bhurishravas. He was a cousin brother of Arjun. It is said that
Mm.
immediately after dying, he goes to Vishnu Loka. Pure devotee wahan khada hai. This has nothing to do with all that. This had to do with who is on the side of dharma. Krishna was at least with the Pandavas from the dharmic perspective, and that's very clear. We can't refute that
So
point.
how? So it's very difficult for my mind to accept that. How is it possible that a devotee, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, whatever the characteristics are there of a devotee, how can he stand on the side of adharma? That's something very difficult for me to understand. So, so
Yeah, see,
what is
because
this
see,
devotion
you
exactly
may
in that sense?
no, no, see, of course, see, in an integrated way, we expect a devotee to be dharmic also. Certainly, that is
Yeah.
expected. By and large, maybe 99% should be, would be.
Okay.
But what if they are not? At least maybe for some political compulsions, they're standing on the other side. Like Bhurishravas
Mm-hmm.
or this Bhishma, Drona, they were all devotees only. But for political compulsions, they were standing on the other side, political family, whatever you want to say. Correct? They were on the other side,
Mm.
right? They were not on the side of
So
Krishna. So they
yeah.
had to be
So I
punished.
mean,
They had to be punished, right? They had to be brought down. It was not about Shraddha. It's not because, see, Krishna is not a whimsical God where he says that you believe in me, you go and blow up 10 people. I will still bring you back to me. No. How can you do that?
but he's called Bhakta Vatsal.
Right, but Bhaktavatsal does, yeah, Bhaktavatsal, he is Bhaktavatsal, but that doesn't mean that he will tolerate anything. If the act of adharma is done, then he's punished also.
Mm.
He will award you for your devotion and punish you for the misconduct. Misconduct is punished. That is not left out. That
So
is very, very
looks
clear
like
about.
looks like devotion is something which is very much related to heart.
Yeah, see, now I'll try to
It
do. Now let
does.
me bring this. Now let me bring this conversation to a more important point that we are addressing. The point which I want to highlight, which I'm sure our students also need to understand, is that devotion doesn't give you the devotion to any god. Okay, let's put aside now this. Devotion to any god doesn't give you the license to break the fundamental rules of this world. Are you getting this? This is Krishna's point. Okay,
Okay.
like just like no Islamic terrorist, who says that just because I'm devotee of Allah, I can go and kill all the kafir. That's what he believes, right? That's why he's
Mm.
going and shooting. Nah? What does he feel? He feels he will kill and he will get the 72 virgins in heaven. He feels that or no?
Mm.
He's
Yes.
feeling that. Okay. Now you tell me, if a devotee of Krishna were also to feel that I am devotee of Krishna, so I can do, even if I do anything, still I am going to be protected only. What is the difference between him and that fellow? Consciousness is same
Mm.
only, right? So this is,
Correct.
so that's why we need to separate out your devotion and the way you function in the world. Ideal combination is you function in the world properly, and on top of that you add devotion, and that is what Bhagavad Gita is all about. Because Bhagavad Gita talks about proper nishkama karma yoga as the fundamental, what shall I say, oh, pizza ka jo base rehte hai na, that is nishkama karma, proper thing, that should be
Trust.
there, and the toppings is the bhakti, the topping that is there. Without this, Krishna is not talking in Bhagavad Gita about devotion without proper action in the world. Krishna is not talking. And this is very relevant in today's world, because in today's world, we have all these cases of religious fundamentalism where people feel that just because I'm a devotee of XYZ God, I have the license to do anything and I'm God's man. It is very dangerous. You think about it carefully. Religion actually has that potential. The faith has the potential to make you feel that you are beyond all laws of the world, and people feel that. The Taliban in Afghanistan feels it today. Remember, they are not feeling that they are doing anything wrong. Do you know that?
Yeah.
The Taliban in Afghanistan who's ruling, they are feeling they are doing correct thing only. Because they are feeling, hum to Allah ke bande hai bhai. How can we go wrong? So then you are breaking all basic ethical behavior in the world. You are breaking dharma in the name of your faith of God. And Krishna doesn't allow that. That's the point.
Okay. Okay.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Understood. Yeah, makes sense. So so it doesn't mean that whoever was on the side of Krishna was, I mean, a devotee. But that's I mean, generally that's how it looks like. That's how it's looked like. So there is a difference between, as you said, that actually both the things should be integrated. But devotion was something which was, I mean, Bhishma was also a devotee, so that was something which was a matter of their own hearts. And unfortunately, they were on the other side. Yeah. So yeah, so at this moment, if any of our friends have any questions, I will like if they can ask. And then I have noted they had some questions. If there are no questions, then I can ask. You can raise hands. Till that time, I will start with the questions which have been asked. So the first question is that we have been taught all wrongs in our schools and colleges, and we see in our like movies and serials. So first question, how can it be rectified? And we have been taught nothing about our own things. What can be done?
Okay, see, so just like, for any knowledge, you have to approach a teacher, correct? I mean, see, even now, see, today in YouTube, everything can be learned. But still, why all these people have come to college? Why did we join CUEP? Every lecture that is given in CUEP, I can tell you on all those topics, you have a YouTube lecture, which sometimes may even
Hmm.
be slightly better than what the teacher
Better.
is teaching in the class. With all respects to teachers, I am included in that equation. Okay, but the point is still you need a teacher. You need a teacher, right? Because you need that personal touch. You need your doubts to be clarified, and more importantly, you need a teacher who is practicing that branch of knowledge properly. That means when you say doctor, there are quacks also, na, in the name of doctor, bogus
Hmm.
doctor. You can't learn from anybody. So spirituality and our dharma also, one has to learn properly. See, problem was na, in India before the secular macula education started, the Gurukul system was there. There were ways, sampradayas existed. Even today they are there. Way knowledge would be given to people. Okay, so we will have to take some effort to learn from the right teachers rather than thinking that I can anybody can teach spirituality. ऐसा कैसा हो सकता है? And many people, unfortunately, what they have done, they have imposed their views on it. Like I told you, see, people like victimhood sells. Are you understanding victimhood? मतलब कोई भी victim बोलते हैं ना, ऐसे बीच में चल रहा था me too movement. Many ladies were saying me too, even I got abused. So that became, so victimhood sells in the world, unfortunately, many times. So what happens now, they just take any character from the Mahabharata, Ramayana and make them a victim. आजकल लोग रावण को भी victim बना देते, वो victim था, ये था, वो था. अरे भाई, so then you get all the wrong lessons only, no? So then how can that be
Yeah.
possible? You can't learn like that.
So another student is asking that, like, what is the, if I want to take this knowledge from any right source, which is that source?
Okay, see, I wouldn't want to say that, one way is the only way to learn like that, because that again would be, then I would be guilty of the same thing that I was saying about the Abrahamic fellows who say that this is the only way to learn. I'm the only guy, correct guy, who's sitting and teaching here. So my point is simple. See, just like for any branch of knowledge to learn, you make some effort, right? When you
Yeah.
want to do engineering, don't you do a big survey? अरे रात रात लोग ढूंढते रहते हैं कहाँ से इंजीनियरिंग करें. हर एक कॉलेज का एडवांटेज डिसएडवांटेज हम लोग निकालते हैं ना सब बैठ के. Correct. So similarly, you need to understand that there are so many, and so you have to do some research on traditions also. Like for example, like in Maharashtra, you have Tukaram Maharaj. Has written so many abhangas. The philosophy of the Gita, the Bhagavad, in such simple language is put in that. Okay, so like that, all over India, there are so many sampradayas or teachers or institutions, which are teaching the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana very nicely. And I think if there is a will, there is a way. You need to be motivated to want to learn, and then you can get connected to people and start learning nicely. I mean, I will give a broad answer here, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I don't want to just
That's
name one or two guys and say that these are the only people, because then that would be wrong. That would be against what I am representing.
yes. Okay. So, sir, you were mentioning the student asking that you were mentioning the Ved Vyas Mahabharata. So, can you give the name where I can get this proper Mahabharata?
No, no. So the Mahabharata, it is published. For example, if you want to look at the verses, that is printed by this Gita Press Gorakhpur. Okay, Gita Press
Okay.
Gorakhpur has very nicely printed the text, and also the translations are also pretty good. Hindi, not English. Okay, the Hindi is very good, very original translation, and they have faithfully represented the book. But I would say that just more important than just taking a book and reading, classes like these we are having here, discussions, forums where you can discuss, these also tend to be a little bit more important, because you need to because there is a need to even get doubts clarified, to expand ideas, etc. So traditionally, books, this whole idea of picking a book and reading and understanding was it's like that in every science, right? As in, I can't simply take a book on anesthesia and become an anesthetist. I cannot, right? So like that. So of course, I gave a very extreme example, but I believe that learning from people is also more important than anything. But if you want the book, then Gita Press Gorakhpur is the only original proper book on Mahabharata in terms of text and meaning.
Yeah. So, so one question is that today's Hindus, they don't even know Bhagavad Gita, and other religion people know at least their basis. So who is responsible? Is the modern
We
education
are
system
only
responsible for
responsible.
that?
No, Hindus are responsible. Hindus are responsible. I had gone to Malaysia some years ago. So I was taken to a school. So there in Malaysia, 60% are Chinese, 30% are 60% Islamic, 30% are Chinese, 10% are Hindu. So they have a religion class. So I wanted to know what they teach. So they said the 60% Muslims, they learn Islam, Quran and all that. 30% Chinese learn something. They have some other thing only that time. And I asked, what about the 10% Hindus? They said they play football in that period. So I said, playing football is good. Certainly, playing football is very nice for the health. But our religion class में कुछ तो पढ़ाओ ना बाबा. They said that we have nothing to teach because we have so many things to teach. We don't know where to start. So one problem with the Hindu Samaj, they have become the most secular in the world. Secular means they have nothing to do only with anything. And this is the tragedy. You're sitting with something which is like the Ramayana, Mahabharata, the Gita, and the Vedic scriptures are like an ocean. No religious book, no book will come in comparison to that. The Mahabharata, if you even consider volume, it is such a novel that even today such novels don't exist. What a complex story it is. Even if you look at it as a story, what a story. अभी भी महाभारत जब चलता है ना, कुछ नहीं, वो बी आर चोपड़ा का महाभारत चलता था 1980s में, व्हेन आई वाज अ चाइल्ड. अरे मुस्लिम क्रिश्चियन भी देखते थे, वो रास्ते पे एक आदमी कौवा नहीं रहता था. Even recently, Star Plus made one Mahabharat 7 8 years ago. It was such a hit. 100 crore unka revenue tha. It was a top serial when they
Yeah.
displayed. So
Even
the
in this
point is,
lockdown,
even in this,
yeah,
so
it
my
broke all
point,
the records.
it
Yeah.
broke all records. So my point is, you have, and this is only watching serial. Oh, that is the lowest way of learning scripture, by the way. But that is also so entertaining. What to speak of actually getting into it. But लेकिन उसके लिए परिश्रम करना पड़ेगा. लेकिन my problem now is the Hindus have become overly secular people. Overly secular. They have taken secularism too seriously. And all the other guys are beating you left and right because of this bogus secularism. That's the point. Anyway.
So adding one story to this secularism, I think you are also getting late. Uh, so one of my friend, he was going from a flight from Delhi to Bangalore. So he was so he's a Hindu. So he was sitting. So when he got down, he converted to Islam. That's what so secular we have become. So yeah, you're telling correctly. So I think I would not like to take any questions further, and I would like to conclude, and you may leave, sir,
Okay.
because I think you are getting late. I would just like to conclude with all the participants. Thank you so much. So what we looked today was regarding Eklavya. So Eklavya was born in a tribal community, he was much lower than even Karna. So but it was not, no, in the text it's never mentioned that there was a discrimination based on the caste. So the discrimination was, as sir was mentioning, there were two kingdoms, Hastinapur and Magad. They were the prominent kingdoms. So he was part of the Magad community. So, and sir, very beautiful example he gave was like one ISI student is wanting to join Indian Army. So we cannot show our sympathy to that person. And why such things are taken out, such references are taken out, as sir was telling, beautifully mentioning that victimhood sells more. That is why people showcase it in a very different way. But if you see the text, there was no discrimination which was mentioned on this basis. And also sir told that that Krishna was the one who killed Eklavya. And sir also shared that Krishna killed even his own son when he was not performing dharma. Then the next point was that Drona had no problem to give the knowledge to Drishtadumna. So it was not that the caste was an issue, it was that the qualification. And then why the trust, I mean Duryodhan was given that education, even when he was low in his qualification, just because Dhritarashtra was so much attached. Dhritarashtra was the king and he was so much attached to his son. And then we touched upon the point of reservation. So sir mentioned that there is Anushasan Parv, which is like 25% of Mahabharata. And then he also mentioned that uh, it's given there that how the cabinet should be formed. So there are like 21 members, 3 are Brahmanas, 4 are Kshatriyas, 11 are Vaishyas, 3 are Shudras, 1 is Suta. So like, and if you see, it's like 45% are of Vaishyas, because Vaishyas are important to increase the prosperity in the country. And then we touched upon the point of inheritance. So sir mentioned that there are two ways the inheritance was done, one which was private. So when the point was of a private inheritance, then it was distributed evenly. So if there are 5 children, everyone will get equal rights. So then he touched upon the point of dowry. So dowry was a very beautiful concept. It was not like today's concept. So what does dowry mean? It is inheritance of a girl, कि इस लड़की के पास इतना शेयर है, सपोज 3 बच्चे हैं तो 33% उसके पास है. So that money is to be given to the girl, and the man or the husband, the girl's husband, cannot touch the money. And if somebody uses that money, so our scriptures mention there was a different hell made for those men. And then when the inheritance was on the basis of kingdom, so it was not a personal property, so it could not be divided. So the division in the kingdom was only made when there was a natural, I mean, border. So it was just like India and China, but not like India and Pakistan. That is a man-made border. And the king, who was a king? King was a servant of all. Then sir mentioned about uh, the story of Bharata. So Bharata is the person on which our country's name Bharat was given. So he was the son of Shakuntala and Dushyant, and he had 9 sons, but none of the sons was made the king. So he adopted a 10th person because he was qualified and he was given that position of being the king. And then sir told, also very beautifully told, that we in this world have to work in the way the world is designed to work. I mean, dharma, we all have to follow the basic principle of dharma. Then he beautifully gave the example of like of the pizza. So the basis is dharma or nishkama karma, the principles of this world, and the toppings are like bhakti. So this is what we discussed today. And then as somebody had asked that he also wanted to learn about this in detail. So sir mentioned that that one, like when once we are going to select a college, so we do so much of research for selecting a college. Similar research we on our own personal lives we have to do. And we have to do that parishram of mehnat wo karna hai to read all these books, and also find the right person who can guide us. And also such forums which we have today, like this, So if we get an opportunity so that our ideas and horizons can increase, so we can also join such things. So this is what I have to say. If you have any questions, you can post it down for the next session. We'll just wait for any for just 1 minute, or otherwise we can just end here. So thank you so much for each and every one of you, and especially sir who has just left. So for giving your valuable time, and I hope you liked. And we'll be having next session on next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. Let's see. That will be posted to you. So thank you so much. Any questions, please put it down. Otherwise, we can just leave. Okay. So I think if there are no questions, uh, if there are no questions, then we'll end. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being so patient. Bye.